Hello and welcome to ETV Bharat. With me, this is Deputy Speaker of Tibetan's Parliament in Exile, Mrs. Dolma Tsering. Welcome to ETV Bharat, ma'am. It's an honor to talk to you. Ma'am, what brings you here in New Delhi at this critical point of time?
As you are well aware of, Tibet is under Chinese occupation and it's been in exile for 63 years. So whenever the Indian Parliament is convened, we are here to connect with the Indian parliamentarians who are the decision makers also to appraise them about the critical situation of human rights in Tibet, the critical situation of the religious and cultural freedom in Tibet, and the environmental destruction at the Tibet plateau. And another thing which is very important from the Indian perspective is about the border between India and China. As Tibet is occupied by China, India now has a border with China. So there is always intrusion and there's always disturbance at the border side. So if you want a peaceful and stable border position with China, it's high time India also make it a point to talk with the Chinese counterpart that before we do business, we want to have a secure border because it is matter of the sovereignty of a country. It's not a small thing. So for that, you need to urge the Chinese counterpart to have dialogue with the representatives of His Holiness Dalai Lama, because we are not asking for complete independence. Though Tibet had a record of 2,000 years of its own history, but now it's occupied by China and we are ready to exist with China, provided they give us freedom and space to keep our identity and have a space to practice our religion and our way of life. So for that, you must urge the Chinese counterpart to come to the dialogue and solve the Tibet issue. And one of the most critical thing about the world over is we are talking about the climate change. So it's non-political. It's, environment has no boundaries. So Tibet plateau hasn't got the due share of significance from world over, because whatever happens at the top of the world, the roof of the world, what we call Tibet, is not addressed. So Ramanathan, the environmentalist, he has categorically mentioned that unless we give significance to the disturbances happening at the Tibet plateau, the addressing of climate change would be incomplete. So we are here to urge the parliamentarians to urge the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to have a scientific research being done on what's happening on Tibet plateau and what is the impact of the disturbances that is happening on Tibet plateau on the overall global warming and global change. So I think our meetings with the parliamentarians were well received of. They were sympathetic. They were showing their concern to us. And I would say that it was a very fruitful engagement with the Indian parliaments.
As you yourself pointed out that you have been meeting Indian lawmakers. So could you please share with us to whom all did you meet? Did you also meet the leaders from the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party?
Of course, we have met because they are at present ruling the country. To meet them was prime important, and even with the other rest of the political parties. So from the ruling parties, we have met about 19 parliamentarians, former ministers and former Minister of States also. Yes. So 19 from the International Congress. We have met three parliament members and 4 former ministers. And with the ARP, we met the parliament members. And one of the highlight of this engagement was that we were able to connect with the northeastern state parliamentarians who shared their concern of the depletion of water flow to their states from the Brahmaputra river. So, we talked in length with them about the Brahmaputra, damming of Brahmaputra. Zangmo is already been built and 3 more are coming out. And the Lhoka site also, there are triple dams coming up. At the Ningchi site, which is border to Arunachal Pradesh, there also the damming is going on. So why are China building so much dam? This is a question each one of us, especially our Indians, Northeast states, the ASEAN countries, China are damming it, not only for hydroelectricity, they are building it for hydro hegemony over the downstream countries. And so it would be very late if we just keep brooding over. I think it's high time we become vocal about it at the national platform, at the same time take it to the international and United Nations platform, whereby you raise your concern and make China accountable. Because when the tap is in the hand of Chinese, anytime they can create drought at their will and whims, and anytime they can spoil the harvest by flooding at any moment. So that was a highlight of our tour this time.
Ma'am, you also met the Taiwan's envoy to New Delhi. Did you meet any other envoy also?
Yes, we met His Highness Taiwanese ambassador, and we had in detail talked about exchange of students, learning of languages, and we are going to explore this pair of exchange program with them. And then another important embassy we visited was American Embassy. We were well received of, and leaving aside India, who is the biggest supporter of Tibet, the next in the West world is America. They have Tibet-China policy being enacted. They have the special coordinator for Tibet, Mrs. Uzrazia also. So we talked in length about our grievances, about our the feelings on how the world is taking the Tibet issue at what level. So we even mentioned to most of the representatives that we met from different embassies that almost all the countries should have a Tibet Policy Act, and you can also have a special coordinator for Tibet, because when Russia is getting read from the Human Rights Council, why can't China, who has the lowest human rights record, still in the Human Rights Council in the United Nations? This is a big question. Each humanity must put to him or herself. So I think the world must come together to tackle the bullies of China, because we have let loose China so long that they are always there to dictate to the sovereign parliamentarians. But whenever we talk about human rights violation in Tibet, it's an internal matter. So this is a very, it's a very different thing when it comes to their self, and when it comes to others, they have always have the long hand to touch anything on that.
Ma'am, as you yourself pointed out that you had an interaction with the American embassy. So did they said any significant thing about the China? And did you talk about any significant thing about the Russia-Ukraine crisis, or about the relations between China and Tibet, about the significant process that is going on?
We don't have to talk in length about the crisis in Tibet, because they are well informed. We were there to give a courtesy call and to thank the Tibet scholarship program, which is enriching the youngsters of Tibet over there. And we thanked the government of India for appointing Uzrazia as the special coordinator. So it remained to that level, because they are well aware of what's happening over there. Therefore, they have a law enacted, Reciprocal Act, Tibet Policy Act, everything they have done on the political front. I think US has taken a very strong stand for Tibet.
Ma'am, your visit to New Delhi comes at a very critical point of time, when New Delhi has been receiving a flurry of foreign delegates, including the visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, which was a very surprising visit. The last time Tibetan delegation had an interaction with the Indian lawmakers, it created a very strong reaction from the Chinese embassy, and they even penned down a letter to the Indian lawmakers, which received a very negative response from the Indian side. So, how do you analyze this, and do you expect any such further response or reaction from the Chinese state this side as well?
Arrival of numerous foreign ministers of different countries to New Delhi signifies the importance of Indian geopolitical position in the world over, and this is a very important development. Regarding the Chinese foreign minister coming over here, I think this is a photo op show. That I felt it that way because it was not, it had not come to the news that he is going to arrive. Just after Islamabad, he just peeped in, had a photo shoot with the foreign affairs minister, trying to show to the world as that they're engaging with India. But India and China are totally different country. Their stand is different. One is totalitarian, another is democratic. So there's no point they can fool the Indian people in particular and the global world over in large. Coming to their long hand in the free expression and freedom of meeting anybody, I think China cannot understand democratic way of governance. In a democratic way of governance, each elected member can have their own view apart from the government stand. You can have your priority on human rights. You can have your priority on culture and religion. So we met number of parliamentarians, and they were adamant that no matter whether they anger the Chinese counterpart, they are with Tibet, so, which is a very strong message to China. So even if China barks at the end that why did you meet, who are they to dictate to the elected members of Indian Parliament? Yes. And how can they expect the elected members to succumb to their dictates? One thing it is happening is because we have let loose Chinese breaking international business laws, breaking international, so many laws. We made them do it, and therefore like जो है बिगड़े बच्चे जो है सुधारने में time लगेंगे, इसलिए they are taking time. So that's it.
Can we expect more such interactions between the Tibetan delegation and the Indian lawmakers in the near future as well?
Of course, till the conflict of Tibet-China is solved, we will be reaching out to the Indian parliaments because after every election there are new faces coming up. The olds are taking a backstage. Sometimes even old parliamentarians are coming. So this is an ongoing process. It's not going to end here. So we will meet them. We will make China angry. Because whenever we are active, they get angry. So if they don't want to get angry, they should come to the table and solve Tibet issue so that India and China have a secure and a peaceful border state.
How is His Holiness Dalai Lama's health? Has he been doing fine? And can we expect any further interaction or a meeting between Dalai Lama and Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the near future?
The biggest and the happiest news I bring from Tibetan Parliament is during the lunar calendar, New Year of Tibet, Losar we call it, on the 15th day, that is the Purnima of first month of Tibet, we had physical teaching by His Holiness, and in that he himself, His Holiness, announced that he is fit and fine. So which is a very good news to the world, which is very good news to the Tibetans inside Tibet. And I'm sure His Holiness, as soon as the COVID restrictions are over, he'll be giving teachings, he'll be meeting dignitaries, and of course meeting with Prime Minister Modi would be at the top priority. That's my thinking.
Ma'am, my last question. Any message that you want to give to the Chinese side?
To the Chinese leadership, I have full sympathy with the Chinese people because they are suffering as much as we are suffering. because China give news what the others want to listen. वो जो बोलते हैं वो अपने मनमानी से बोलते हैं. So जो सच्चाई है, the truth is beneath the crust. So to the leadership of People's Republic of China, I want to tell that where there is suppression, there will be revolt, and no big civilization had survived the time. The will of the people, the cry for freedom will win over suppression and authorization of clamming down of these freedoms. So truth will prevail at last, and they better know this as early as possible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an honor talking to you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much.